Here on the left side, we're going to be plugging in -2 and 3 for x, and on the right side, we'll be plugging in -6 and -10. In the first problem, we have 7 times -2 and 7 times 3. 7 times -2, positive times a negative gives me a negative, and I get 14. 7 times 3, I get 21. So I'd record my answer as -14, comma 21. In the second part, I'm going to be multiplying by -2. So -2 times -2, and -2 times +3. Negative times a negative gives me a positive. 2 times 2 gives me 4. Negative times a positive gives me a negative. 2 times 3 gives me 6. So my final answer here is 4, comma, -6. In the third part, I'm plugging in and then subtracting 8. So when I plug in -2 and subtract 8, -2, -8, they have the same sign. We combine them and keep the same sign. 2 plus 8 gives me 10. Since they're both negative, it stays -10. When I plug in 3, I get 3 minus 8. Here we have different signs. When you're combining two things with different signs, you subtract and keep the larger sign. So 8 minus 3 gives me 5. Since 8's the larger number and it has the negative sign, I keep the negative with that 5. So my final answer here would be -10, comma, -5. When I do 4 minus x, it becomes 4 minus a -2 and 4 minus 8. 4 minus a -2 really just becomes 4 plus 2, or 6. 4 minus 8, here we have two different signs, so we gotta do subtraction. 8 minus 4 gives me 4. Since the negative is the bigger number, it's a -4. So my final answer here is +6, -4. When I go to do 6x plus 3, I'll first do 6 times -2 plus 3. Then I'm going to do 6 times 3 plus 3. It looks like I messed up this one here. I apologize. I'm going to go back for a second. I was trying to plug in 8 from looking above. I should have been plugging in 3. So if I plugged in 3 properly, 4 minus 3 would have given me 1 instead of that -4. That's why this really should have been 6, comma 1. Apologies for that. Down here, when I do 6 times -2, I get -12 plus 3. These are different signs, so I subtract them. 12 minus 3 gives me 9, and the negative was with the biggest number. When I do 6 times 3, I get 18, plus 3 gives me 21. So my final answer here would be -9, comma 21. When we're doing this right side again, x is going to first equal -6 and then -10. When we just have -x, this is one of the times where it's really important to plug in using parentheses. So I get -6 and I get -10. This is an understood -1, so basically 1 times 6 gives me 6, a negative times a negative gives me a positive. 1 times 10 gives me 10, a negative times a negative gives me positive. So my answers are +6 and +10. When I do 4 times a -6 and 4 times a -10, in each case I'm doing a positive times a negative, so my answers are both going to be negative. 4 times 6 gives me 24, 4 times 10 gives me 40. So my final answers are -24 and -40. When I plug in the number 8, -6 minus 5, and -10 minus 5. In each case, we're really combining two negative numbers. In that case, we add them and keep the negative sign. 6 and 5 combine to give me 11, keep the negative sign. 10 and 5 combine to give me 15, keep the negative sign. So my final answer is -11, comma -15. When I do 6 minus x, it becomes 6 minus a -6, and 6 minus a -10. Those double negatives become positives, so this is really 6 plus 6, or 12, and this is 6 plus 10, or 16. So my final answers are 12 and 16. Finally, when I plug in negative 6 here, it becomes 3 times negative 6 plus 1. It becomes 3 times negative 10 plus 1. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. When I add 1 to that, since they're different signs, it's really subtraction. So it becomes 17. Sign of the larger is negative. Same idea here. 3 times negative 10 is negative 30. When I add that to a positive 1, I really do subtraction to get 29 and keep the sign of the larger the negative. That way my final answer becomes negative 17, comma, negative 29.